Kal-El has learned that in the absolute universe, hope has to be fought for. He saw this on Krypton, where he watched his entire civilization collapse under the weight of its own arrogance. The people in power saw the disaster coming and chose to hide it from the population and tried to save themselves. And this ended in disaster. Earth hasn't been much different so far. After arriving here, Kal found temporary refuge in Smallville, but peace didn't last. The Lazarus Corporation, led by Ra's al Ghul, tried to capture him and turn him into a weapon to shape the world through destruction and rebirth. So Kal spent years drifting from place to place, helping where he could, refusing to let the people around him become collateral damage in someone else's war. Eventually, though, he stopped running. Superman confronted Ra's, dismantled Lazarus's operations and rejected the offer to rule beside him as Kal-El Ghul. But victory didn't satisfy him. Kal wants people to change, to become better than they were before, and he would do everything in his power to make that happen. That idealism has placed him in conflict with almost everyone around him. Hawkman, here a stooge of the corrupt elites, believed Superman was naive for challenging the system that kept the world stable. Talia al Ghul believed compassion was weakness. Lois Lane nearly executed Talia in revenge for her father's death, and even Ra's himself, broken and repentant, struggled to convince his own daughter that violence wasn't the answer. And then everything got worse. While Superman tried to hold the world together, Lazarus accidentally awakened something ancient. Teth Adam, the man called King Shazam, a ruler from ancient Kahndaq who was given incredible powers by a pair of curious brainiacs. He had ruled nearly 4,000 years ago, but was betrayed and sealed away in suspended animation. Now he has awakened in a world he no longer recognizes, furious that history moved on without him. And unlike Superman, Adam has absolutely no interest in restraint. And that's where this issue picks up. But this time it's narrated by another new character who has just debuted, John Henry Irons, also known as Steel. We're briefly shown Irons' backstory. He had been a child prodigy who was recruited by Lazarus with the promise of earning a fortune. In the present day, he works in a slaughterhouse maintaining the machinery used to process cattle. When one of the main devices stops working, he has to stand in and kill the cow with his hammer, and I feel like there's a metaphor here. He went from working for a company that was destroying the planet, oppressing and killing untold numbers of people across the globe, to a slaughterhouse. Sure, his role is different, but he can't seem to stop getting blood on his hands. Hence the red gloves, I assume. Regardless, Irons stands in stunned awe at the sight of King Shazam, who is furious. He speaks an ancient language that only Ra's al Ghul understands, and he is outraged by the state of the world. He says that he had tried to save the planet by taking control, but had been betrayed. This new world is loud, dirty, and it genuinely seems to offend him. Not really knowing what's going on, Superman tries to make peace, but is met with a mighty punch that sends him flying over 1,100 miles in just a few seconds. Now let's do some quick maths here. To travel that far in just a few seconds means that Superman was travelling over 1,000,000 miles an hour, meaning that King Shazam had to hit him with over 600 million newtons of force. Don't check my numbers. So what does this tell us? Not only is King Shazam strong, but he operates on a level of violence that even Superman can barely process. One punch removes him from the conflict entirely, like a king swatting away a pretender. Ra's tries to calm him down and tells him that violence isn't the way. He fully admits that he had been a tyrant himself, but Superman had shown him the error of his ways. Although King Shazam is incredulous. He states that one of the gifts bestowed upon him by the Brainiacs is the wisdom of King Solomon, and he knows a lie when he hears one. And with that, he murders Ra's, using his lightning bolts to slice him into chunks, much to everyone's shock and disgust. It's funny that both Irons and Lois had come to the facility with murder in their hearts. Irons wanted to kill Ra's, while Lois wanted to kill Talia for murdering her father. But seeing the deed in person, and in such swift and brutal fashion, stuns them. This is the moment that Superman returns, just a few seconds too late to save his nemesis, and he is distraught. He tells King Shazam that of course he wanted to kill Ra's for everything he had done, but that's wrong. He had to show the world that you can get through to even the worst people and make them see the light. Now King Shazam has robbed him of that opportunity. Oh, and if you're wondering how Superman can now speak to King Shazam, he read a couple of books and taught himself the language. The funny thing about this conversation is that King Shazam believes Superman to be a cheap imitation of himself. They even have similar dust capes. Superman's is the red stone of Krypton, while King Shazam's is the black sand from his homeland. And the reason why this is amusing is based on real-world events. After Superman's debut and considerable success, a whole slew of copycat superhero comics started cropping up. One of the most successful was Captain Marvel, published by Fawcett Comics. It got to the point that DC sued Fawcett, alleging that Captain Marvel was ripping off Superman, and DC actually won that lawsuit. Fawcett had to stop publishing Captain Marvel comics until decades later when they sold the characters to DC, who then integrated them into their universe. So yes, the fact that Black Adam, a Captain Marvel villain, is calling Superman a ripoff is very funny. But now that the pair can understand each other, King Shazam talks about how within 2 days of getting his powers he overthrew the system and eliminated slavery, and on the third day he ended war in his region. Given time, he would have saved the entire planet, but he was betrayed. He notes how it's funny how the world's elites are allowed to rampage across the world and no one bats an eyelid, but the moment someone like him comes along, a member of the underclass, and tries to change things, the whole world goes mad trying to stop him. Meanwhile, Iron stands by in shock as the police arrive to try to arrest him, literally the one person who did the least, now there's some commentary, prompting him to fly off after Superman and King Shazam. By this point, King Shazam has dismissed Superman as just some other slave having his strings pulled by the people in power, and their true battle begins. Though it's interesting to note that when Steel arrives and strikes King Shazam across the face with his hammer, he draws blood. What exactly is that hammer made of, I wonder? They tear through the skies with colossal cracks of thunder as they shoot across the globe, with many recognizable landmarks like the Christ the Redeemer statue in Brazil, the Himalayas, the pyramids, the Eiffel Tower, and oh look, there's Batman. He doesn't seem too fazed by a pair of powerful godlike creatures burning their way through the sky. I mean, have you seen what he's facing in Absolute Batman? Completely understandable. When they eventually come crashing to Earth, Superman is on the floor as King Shazam vows to break the chains shackling the world. Steel, clearly outmatched, won't give up though, just as Hawkman arrives to clean the mess up. If King Shazam thought Superman was a stooge for the elites, helping to maintain the status quo, wait till he gets a load of Hawkman, right? Absolute Superman 19 is available now from all good comic shops. I would encourage you to research your local comic shop, and if you don't have one, I'm certain there are dozens of good stores nearby that would be happy to mail you your comics. If you're opposed to the idea of cluttering up your home with comic books, then you can get this one digitally from places like Amazon as well as Neon Ichiban. Personally, I prefer physical comics, but I do like the convenience of having thousands of comic books accessible from my phone. But you do what works best for you. Cheap plug time, I'm currently running a competition where you could win one of 4 signed copies of Two-Face Trial Separation. Full details on how you can win can be found in last week's video, where I talked about a recent splurge I went on, tracking down Golden Age Two-Face comics. Check that out if you haven't already. I tried to do something a little different and, perhaps predictably, it didn't get much of a response. Next time, I'll be back shortly with a video about Absolute Green Lantern 14, where our spacefaring heroes discuss their plan for dealing with the menace of Mogo the Living Planet. After that, early next week, I'll release a video about Batman number 9, where Vandal Savage's Tuco squad begin their offensive against the Bat family. And later next week, probably at the weekend, it'll be time to discuss the penultimate issue of Absolute Martian Manhunter, with John, the Martian, and Despair the Zero coming face to face with the mysterious boss of the agency. Hope to see you then.